Everyone longs for love, for someone who listens, someone we can open up to. A relationship that gives our life meaning. But sometimes, that very longing can lead us to places we can't come back from. Sometimes all it takes is one date, one stranger, one evening, and everything ends. Grace Millane, a 22-year-old British backpacker, was living her dream to travel the world. In December 2018, she arrived in New Zealand. She was full of life, determined and excited to celebrate her birthday. On her first night in Auckland, she arranged a date through the Tinder app. She met a man for a drink. She never came back. A week later, the police found her body buried in a suitcase in the forest at the edge of the city. The man from Tinder, Jesse Kempson, was the killer. The case shocked the world. It showed that a single meeting can change or end an entire life. Sometimes it's not the fear of the unknown that threatens us, but the trust we place in someone we barely know. Grace was looking for connection. Instead, she found death. Grace Millane was a 22-year-old university graduate from Essex. She studied advertising and marketing, and she was a passionate traveler. After finishing school, she set out to fulfill her dream, to explore the world before starting her first job. Her adventure began in South America. She visited Peru, Chile, and Argentina, documenting her journey on Instagram. She shared photos of mountains, cities, and sunsets, always with a smile and determination in her eyes. At the end of November 2018, she flew to New Zealand. She planned to spend 2 weeks there, exploring the local nature, learning about the culture, and celebrating her 22nd birthday. But what she didn't know was that this country, the one meant to give her more memories, would become her final destination. On December 1st, 2018, the day before her 22nd birthday, Grace arranged to meet a man she had matched with on a dating app called Tinder. His name was Jesse Kempson. They met in downtown Auckland. Their first stop was a local bar where they shared a few glasses of wine. They laughed, talked. At least from the bartender's perspective, it looked like a perfectly ordinary date. They went on to visit another venue. Security cameras later captured them walking through the city together. They appeared relaxed. Nothing suggested that Grace had any idea how dangerous the man beside her truly was. The night ended in a hotel apartment Jesse had rented in one of the city's high-rise buildings. It was the last night Grace would ever be alive. What happened behind those closed doors remained a mystery for a while. But thanks to the evidence found at the scene and witness testimonies, one thing became painfully clear. A date that should have ended like any other turned into a tragedy that could never be undone. Grace didn't contact her loved ones, not even on her birthday, December 2nd. That was unusual. She was a reliable and loving daughter who messaged her parents every single day. So her father knew something was wrong. On December 3rd, he contacted the British Embassy to report his daughter missing. New Zealand police began searching immediately. The first surveillance footage revealed that Grace had left that evening with an unknown man and never returned to her hotel. Investigators quickly identified the man who had spent the night with her. His name was Jesse Shane Kempson. He was 26 years old and lived in Auckland. Police brought him in for questioning. At first he claimed that Grace had left his room later that night, around 9 p.m. But when detectives confronted him with CCTV footage and other evidence, his story began to fall apart. On December 8th, a full week after Grace disappeared, Jesse Kempson was officially charged with murder. The next day, on December 9th, 2018, police found her body. It had been hidden inside a suitcase and buried in a shallow grave in the Waitakere Ranges, about 25 kilometers from downtown Auckland. Digital records and transaction logs revealed that Kempson had purchased cleaning supplies, a suitcase, and a shovel, all after Grace had died. Surveillance footage also captured him leaving the hotel with the suitcase containing her body. Later, he was seen casually buying a coffee as if nothing had happened. For the police, there was no doubt. This was no accident. It was a cold-blooded, calculated disposal of a body following a brutal murder. The trial of Jesse Kempson began in November 2019, nearly a year after Grace's murder. Kempson defended himself by claiming Grace's death was a tragic accident during what he called rough but consensual sex. He said he panicked, and that's why he hid her body. But the court didn't believe his story. The prosecution presented compelling evidence, both physical and digital. For instance, Google search history from his phone showed that shortly after Grace died, he looked up phrases like "waterways near me" and, disturbingly, "angry women who say no." One of the most shocking revelations was that, while Grace's body was still inside a suitcase in his apartment, Jesse arranged another date with a different woman. During the trial, other women who had met Kempson through Tinder also came forward. They described him as manipulative, violent, and dangerous. Their testimonies helped paint a chilling picture, a man with a pattern of behavior. This wasn't the first time he had threatened or harmed someone. After 2 weeks of deliberations, the jury reached a unanimous verdict. Jesse Kempson was found guilty of the murder of Grace Millane. The judge sentenced him to life in prison with the possibility of parole only after 17 years. In his ruling, the judge stated that this was not a crime of impulse. It was an act marked by cold-bloodedness, manipulation, and a complete lack of remorse. Grace's family made a powerful decision that her story wouldn't end as a courtroom tragedy. Instead, they chose to write a new chapter, one filled with hope. And so, the charity project Love Grace was born, an initiative that combines practical support with a message of empathy, dignity, and solidarity for women. Grace had a deep love for handbags. That small detail became the symbol of a greater purpose. Love Grace collects new or gently used handbags, fills them with hygiene products and thoughtful gifts, and delivers them to women in shelters. Each one is a gesture of compassion, a reminder that they are not alone. By 2023, over 15,000 handbags had been donated to women across the UK and abroad. The project also partners with organizations like White Ribbon, which works to educate the public and fight violence against women. Grace's mother and her cousin were awarded the Order of the British Empire for their work on the project. Not because they sought recognition, but because they transformed grief into something profoundly good. The case of Grace Millane became more than a tragedy. It became a catalyst for real change in the law. During the trial, Jesse Kempson claimed that Grace's death was the result of rough sex that went too far. This so-called rough sex defense had previously been used in courts to justify violence that ended in a woman's death. But Grace's family refused to stay silent. Her cousin Hannah said it plainly. It felt like Grace was the one on trial, but she couldn't defend herself. You cannot consent to your own death. Their courage and persistence helped spark a national conversation and ultimately led to legislative change. Their efforts contributed to the passage of the UK Domestic Abuse Act, which explicitly bans the use of the rough sex defense in cases involving murder or serious injury. A life stolen too soon, but not in vain. Grace Millane was a young woman full of dreams who set out to explore the world. Her life was taken by violence, but her legacy lives on in every handbag donated, in every woman who found support through Love Grace, and in every law that now protects victims from injustice. Her story reminds us that even in the darkest moments, a light can emerge, one that helps illuminate the path for others.
I'd like to start with a comment on the murder of Grace Millane, having received a number of media queries about this tragedy. Firstly, I cannot imagine the grief of her family and what they will be experiencing and feeling right now. And my thoughts and prayers are with her father, David, who is in the country, her mother, Gillian, who cannot be here, and her wider family, friends, and loved ones. You know, from the Kiwis I have spoken to, there is this overwhelming sense of hurt and shame that this has happened in our country, a place that prides itself on our hospitality, on our manaakitanga, especially to those who are visiting our shores. And so, on behalf of New Zealand, I want to apologise to Grace's family. Your daughter should have been safe here, and she wasn't, and I'm sorry for that. I've advised the family through the police that if there is anything we can do to assist, we're here.